Time again for Doc Jacques, your addiction lifeguard podcast. I am Dr. Jacques de Bruckert, a psychologist, licensed professional counselor, and addiction specialist. If you are suffering from addiction, misery, trauma, whatever it is, I'm here to help. If you're in search of help to try to get your life back together, join me here at Doc Jacques, your addiction lifeguard, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. I wanted to be real clear about what this podcast is intended for. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes, but not considered help. If you actually need real help and you're in need of help, please seek that out. If you're in dire need of help, you can go to your nearest emergency room, or you can check into a rehab center or call a counselor like me and talk about your problems and work through them. But don't rely on a podcast to be that form of help. It's not. It's just a podcast. It's for entertainment and information only. So let's keep it in that light, all right? Have a good time, learn something, and then get the real help that you need from a professional. So today on the podcast, I have a guest. Her name is Ashley Dillard, and she's the host of Sit Around the Fire, which is a podcast that's available where, Ashley?
All places.
All,
Spotify, Apple, YouTube,
all of them. Okay.
all of them.
And she works, she's also a private practice counselor, and she works with a variety of people, but I think her main focus is on first responders. So that'd be firefighters, medics, police officers, people who see trauma really up close. They're the first ones. So what we're going to talk about is what happens when rescuers need to be rescued, and the impact of that exposure to trauma and then the direct trauma itself, and kind of what happens to people who are in those positions. And I guess you could apply this to people that are like emergency room personnel, doctors, nurses, anything like that, medics in the military, people who just really get hit with that heavy trauma. So that's what I wanted to talk about with Ashley today. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm so honored and excited to be here.
Yeah, this is awesome. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how did you start? You were a firefighter and EMT or paramedic as well, or just a firefighter?
Paramedic too.
Paramedic too. Okay. So you went from that, and then now you're doing counseling and podcasting.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah, so it has been a really incredible journey so far. So, yeah, I worked on the ambulance and then also worked on the fire and did the paramedic thing on the fire department as well for
hmm
just short of 10 years here in Colorado. So, um, at, it is so funny when you look back and reflect on it because when you're in it, when you're online and you're in the thick of it, you don't always see what's going on. And you don't always recognize a lot of these changes that start to happen within yourself.
Inside of you when you're
Um,
getting exposed to the
yeah,
trauma, the stuff you're seeing.
exactly. So,
hmm
like, what becomes normal is not really, I don't always like using the word normal, but is not normal anymore. But it feels so normal to us when we're in it and we experience it. So, um, having gone through, I mean, can't even count how many dead people you see or stuff that you see.
hmm
But getting to a point where you realize like it's not really affecting you anymore. Like it doesn't feel, um, you really don't feel anything. So you feel that numb kind of, it's just another call, it's just another day. And or like in our nature of making jokes about things
hmm
uh, to get through or to desensitize. So when I went to Fire Academy, I found that I was struggling quite a bit within some of the confined space training.
hmm
So I would get into the mazes or the situations and experience what a lot of people have heard of, kind of the phobic wave, where your whole body just literally shuts down out of learning now as a protective mechanism for we're in what is perceived as a high threat, danger situation. We're literally shutting things off. But when you're in the midst of training and trying to do something, you can't have that happen. Um, and what I realized in the moment, I had some really wise mentors and people looking out for me who advocated that I needed to go get some extra help and to really dive into what was going on. So I went to some therapies, different modalities of it, but went to go see somebody who specifically did hypnosis and work through that modality specifically. But what we came across was my response in the mazes, that stress response that I was experiencing, wasn't actually really related to going through the rat maze, as I call it. But it was actually because I had a close friend and a crew member who had committed suicide about 6 months before I was in fire academy. And the physiological response that I was having in that maze was exactly what I was feeling in that moment when we got notified of what had happened. And so it is the whole journey of realizing that these things add up over time, and that when we don't process things or we suppress things and push things down, like there is a point to where it's too much. And so luckily I was able to do a lot of work with that in the moment, and my therapist at the time, was the one who encouraged me about, what do you want to do when you can't do this job anymore, or what if you don't want to do this job anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
the cocky, like, brand new firefighter in me said, what are you talking about? Like, I'm gonna do this career for 25 years and
Dun,
retire.
dun,
Like,
I'm gonna last
yeah,
forever. Yeah,
exactly. I don't need a backup plan. um
I got my cape.
But exactly, yeah, I'm the hero. So, but that really resonated with me over time when I sat with it and thought about, like, actually, like, what is it that I would do? Like, what happens? Because we know that this career can be taken away in
Mm-hmm.
an instant
Mm-hmm.
if you get hurt or something happens. And I didn't want to be in that spot. So I decided to go back to school while I was working. I finished my undergrad and my master's degree in mental health and clinical counseling. And as I continued to move forward with that, it just became clearer and clearer for my own sake that I needed to make some changes. So I was getting incredibly burned out on the job. It is like it felt like I had been there for 20 years, but I had only been there for less than 10. And so the burnout and the not wanting to be at work, not excited to run calls, um, and then coming home and hearing some things of, like, why are you being so short with me, or why are you so irritated, or why um like, just it was just bizarre to see, as well as, like, okay, why am I drinking so much alcohol? Why am I feeling like I can't ever get good rest? It just, all these things started to click and make sense of, I needed to make a change for myself. Either find a way to do the career in a healthy longevity type state, or I was going to have to make a shift. So I decided to retire, realizing that, as you know, that doing both of these jobs, being online and trying to do this, was going to be the
That's not
worst
gonna
decision
happen.
to make.
Yeah, you can't do that.
No,
No, you
not
can't
at all.
analyze what you're going through, well, and then go through it and then analyze it again. No.
No,
Mm-mm.
absolutely not. So I sat with it, talked with a lot of people, and just decided now was the time. So I retired. And what several people I worked with used to say is, like, you're going to become a different kind of helper now. So
Mm-hmm.
it was letting go of being a paramedic, being a firefighter, and realizing, like, where I needed to serve differently. And I had seen too many people who had chosen a different path that led to more suffering, or they got to the point where they did end up committing suicide because they just had nothing left. And I got like really tired of that narrative. So I started the mission of ending the suffering and showing up for the people you mentioned, like the first responders, and how we don't ask for help until it's really, really bad, if we do ask for help at that point. So,
Well, that's what happens in the process of being exposed to traumatic events is that there's the compassion fatigue because you're being a first responder or somebody who is called upon to act in those situations, whatever it is. So you're showing compassion for the other person, but you get to the point where there's compassion fatigue, and like you said, the burnout of like you start shutting it off, and that's what people do a lot of times. This happens in families of addicts too. Like if children are growing up in an addict home, they're exposed to constant traumatic events going on, and they learn to just shut down. One of the things I noticed when I was doing that kind of work, but then doing work as a counselor, I noticed that the people who tended to be first responders or emergency room doctors or nurses or PAs, people that are in the front lines, they tended to come from chaotic, traumatic homes because they were very skilled at shutting it off. So they could operate like a robot. Oh, somebody's lost their leg, tourniquet, no problem, blood everywhere. They have no response at all emotionally. And then when it's over with, they go home and they're curled up on the floor in a fetal position because that's when the emotion then starts hitting them. But the
mm-hmm,
compassion fatigue hits, and then that's when you realize that uh, there's like, I just don't have it in me anymore. And then you get emotional collapse. And that's exactly what you're describing. You get driven to the point where you just can't do it anymore. But the first part of what you said was really interesting. You said that you yourself you didn't notice that there was a change happening in you. But you're getting the feedback from other people. So that invisible burnout is what's going on, because you're trying to adapt around it. And it's not, I don't want to paint everybody who's a first responder with a huge broad brush because some people can handle more of that and they're fine until they get to a certain point. Other people can handle very little of it. Some people just seem to be able to just do it forever. Like they don't
mm-hmm,
actually get burned out. They're just like, that was, that happened to that person, not me. And that's, so not everybody's the same. But I think pretty much if you go into it with the idea that you're helping others, that by its description is compassion, right? And so it's easy to get to that compassion fatigue, and then you
mm-hmm.
start compensating. What I say all the time to people in my practice and on these podcasts, um, that isolation is addiction's best friend. And when you're going home and you have to isolate because you can't tell people all the horribleness that you're getting exposed to, you're just going to isolate. And then that's where something happens. So you're uncomfortable. And that's we use because we're uncomfortable. And so the
Mm-hmm.
discomfort starts rising and rising. That's a problem. Um, so people who have careers that are working where there's a lot of adrenaline going on, there's an adrenaline dump. You can get addicted to that. I don't know
Oh,
about you,
absolutely.
but I noticed when I stopped doing the work that had a lot of adrenaline attached to it, I started ramping up the activities that had adrenaline attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Motorcycles, fighting, competitive fighting, skateboarding. I mean, it was just like whatever I could get an adrenaline dump from. Did you have that
Mm-hmm.
same thing? Did you get that going on?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny that you bring it up because I noticed it actually when I would get on a roller coaster. So when I was in the thick of working and in that time span, I would go jump on a roller coaster and I wouldn't feel anything. It was like, I can't, like, you remember what roller coasters used to be like, and that like drop in your stomach, and this is so exciting. And it was just like very bland. And I thought,
Mm,
holy cow, like, what has happened to me? Like, I, and I see this all the time too with, I mean, coworkers from the past, but also people within my practice is like the threshold starts getting higher and higher. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're looking for more things to make that adrenaline dump happen. So now it's not just driving my motorcycle at 100 miles per hour. Now it's like maybe having a couple drinks and then driving 100 miles per hour, or the, gambling gets out of control,
Mm-hmm.
or, alcohol is not working anymore. Now I need to try something a little bit different. And it's the behaviors and the patterns just build upon themselves because the threshold gets so high and you just realize like, whew, like it's way out of check. And I think so much of that happens from the neuroplasticity and the neurotransmitter side as well too, as
Mm-hmm.
those it literally your brain gets rewired to a new kind of stimulus
Absolutely
as
does. Yeah. And then
mhm,
the craving for the adrenaline, but you also end up with the dopamine hit because like this chaos feels normal, feels good. And then when you're not in chaos, you're not getting the dopamine hit. So then you're gonna, like you said, like you're gonna up the ante with
mhm,
whatever it is that's the get you the adrenaline dump. The non-first responder um, people who have addiction issues, they're constantly chasing chaos. And first responders chase that action, right? Addicts will chase the chaos. And I would imagine if you're a first responder, you're going to, you're chasing both.
mhm.
I don't know if you have much experience with residential treatment programs, but when somebody comes into a residential treatment program and they're going to stay there 30 days, 60, 90 days, they walk in. One of the things that happens in the first like 3, 4 days is that person will come in and start creating chaos. There's like 20 people
Sure.
already in the program. This guy comes in and he starts picking on people and he's creating drama and fight. And everybody knows, like, oh, he just got here. He he'll calm down. It'll take him 3 or 4 days because there's not enough chaos. It's peaceful, it's quiet, everybody's kind of chill because they've been there for
Mhm.
3 weeks. And here comes Johnny Lately, and he's going to
Yep.
create chaos. He needs that adrenaline. Um,
Mhm.
but in the first responder world, yeah, it's like firefighters. You're in the firehouse, and then the bell rings, and you don't know what in the world you're going to be running to. But it's
Mhm.
bad, most likely,
Mhm.
because that's why somebody called, right?
Mhm.
Um, so in the usage world, you have abstaining, and then you get sobriety, but you have to have that emotional sobriety as well, and that kind of
Yep.
happens at the same time. Um, so all right, so that's in the world, in your world, we'll just call it your world, with everybody with the masks and the capes and they're flying around and they're saving people. Um, you mentioned that like first responder types and people in the front lines of stuff, they won't ask for help. Is that a pride thing, or is that a professional, that's a weakness thing, or why do they resist asking for help?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I've come to reflect on it and realize that it's like actually a couple of different things. I think there is a huge element to the pride side. Like there's still that admitting and accepting that I'm not okay, or that there is something going on with you and that you're not functioning well. There's a lot
Hmm.
of breaking that apart and accepting it without, or it just brings a lot of shame and guilt, really, if you when you admit to yourself and you start hearing the things that you actually believe, of if there's something wrong with me or I'm broken, or like whatever the narrative is that's playing in your head. Once you have to be willing to accept that and not bring the shame and guilt along with it. And that requires a lot. That requires a lot for people to do, to get to that point, to
But you're
do that.
talking you're talking about the emotional side, right? You're talking about
Mhm.
like I'm in the point of compassion, fatigue, and emotional collapse. So that pride and that, it's a weakness thing. Is that because of the first responder world? predominantly started out as the boys club, and so there's that
Yeah,
branding to it.
I think so. And if you think back, even like, grandparents, great grandparents coming home from war, World War II, Vietnam War, like it's the same narrative that's playing over is like, you don't have time to talk about your problems or what's going on. You need to like show up, do your work, provide for your family. Like
Hmm.
there's no space for the emotional side of it. And it's just a huge, it's I mean, it's getting better. The stigma for sure around that is getting better because there's such a push now with like not just settling for suffering,
Hmm.
but it's still the same. A lot of it's the same. Like I mean, I remember even being told going through, you know, different trainings and stuff is like, if you can't handle this, you're not going to be able to make it and do this job. And so, like, how twisted that narrative is on
Hmm.
a human level of like, oh, you can't handle seeing somebody like completely decapitated on the side of the road, or you can't see the worst of the worst. Like, if you can't handle that, you're not going to be able to do the job. But thinking of how our brains are wired and our bodies function
Hmm.
is like we're not really meant to see that anyways. And so that whole idea of if I say something or if I go to get the help, there's something wrong with me or I'm weak or I am not going to be able to do the job or my crew is going to see me as weak and not be able to do what I need to do is a huge hindrance, I think, for people just suffering and not getting the help that they need to.
Yeah, it's like you're expected to be a sociopath to be able to function, because you
Hmm.
just don't care about other people's feelings. And oh, that person's leg is missing, or oh, look, they're eviscerated, and or they
Yeah.
burned to death. And
Mm.
is there? Are we going for lunch after this? Or it's like you can't.
That's it.
Yeah, it's
That's
really,
normal. Yeah.
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 So, uh, and we, and when people get exposed to trauma, through their lives, whether they're a first responder or maybe their families are just a big hot mess and there's suicide and cancer and all this stuff that affects them negatively and makes them uncomfortable, and then that's why they start taking on chemicals to cope with that as their primary coping mechanism. But the families of addicts, they're getting exposed to the trauma of watching their addict family member just disintegrate, and it destroys families. But those families have to build those emotional firewalls, and if you can do it in a positive way, that's great. But a lot of times it's in a negative way too. But you get the same silence, either way.
Hmm.
Um, so vulnerability in the admission of this equals weakness. So what starts to break the silence? Is it peer support? Is it therapy? Is it hitting bottom? I mean, what is the thing that starts to break that silence?
I think it's a little bit of all the things. I think for me, it was sitting with like, am I going to be, if I continue on the path that I'm on, will I be okay like destroying my home life? Will I be okay destroying my relationship?
Hmm.
Will I honestly like will I be okay destroying my body because the physical symptoms of things showing up again what we see is like kind of normal like it isn't physiologically normal. Am I willing to sacrifice all those things to stay in silence basically or to keep suppressing things and to choose not to look at things and do things in a healthy way because there is a healthy way you can do the career or you can support somebody who's going through a struggle with addiction. You can do it. You just have to have the right tools and resources. So I think it's really an internal inquisition of asking yourself, like, am I sick enough of my suffering? Like, am I, and the cost of what that's going to be on the other side? Is it worth it? Because just as well, like, if the career is gone, like, the wheel moves on. So, like, as soon as you leave, they're going to put someone else in your seat
Hmm.
or like that continues like they have to have people doing the job but like if you walk away from the job have you destroyed everything else in your life, your family, you like all the things and realizing this whole mentality around self-sacrifice isn't necessary. Like it's a badge of honor we wear that's not really the right badge to be putting on. So,
Yeah. There's a in the 12 steps, I don't know how familiar you are with them, but that's you're describing step one. Like my life's become unmanageable. And but when you're in a position where managing your life is a requirement of your job, which for a lot of people is their sole identity, that's a tough call to make to know how to reach out for help or when to reach out for help. You know, I uh it's interesting. I've had firefighters in here. I've never had a police officer. I've never had a police officer. I'm around police officers a lot. I've never had a police officer. And I'm like,
Mhm.
won't go to therapy. Huh. You guys are just like the military guys. You don't like talking.
Yep.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you gotta find some way to some place to go. Um, and the blue wall is one that is virtually impossible to cross. Which is probably why I don't have police officers in here. They should
Hmm.
come, but they won't come. It's probably the ultimate in weakness. And can you imagine you're sitting in an AA meeting and there's Officer Donaldson right there? Like, didn't he pull me over for speeding the other day? He's not going to go to an AA meeting. So
Yeah.
that's cut off. Same thing happens with doctors, medical
Hmm.
doctors. They're not going to come because they don't want to run into a patient,
Hmm.
and they tell me
Yeah.
that. Like I can't go to meetings. I can't. I get it. I get it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
the realization that I can't do this anymore, like I got to change. Um, so um, to get out of that fire, to get out of the fire is like, what do you do to get out of the fire? And
Hmm.
it may cost you something, but you know what? Listen, recovery, there's always a consequence. There's it's the very nature of recovery is I'm about to lose the thing I didn't want to lose, or I've already lost it. That's the
Right.
point where people get into recovery, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
some people are willing to lose a lot before they
Hmm.
get there. But um, so um, when that moment finally comes, do you think in today's world it's easier to get access to help than it used to be 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
Mm, uh, yes and no. I think that there are a lot more ample resources out, and there's a lot of avenues, even just the podcasting side of things, for people to at least start to hear something different, a different narrative around getting help is a start. And I think I really truly believe like all you need is a willingness. Like that's all you need, and like you can make massive shifts and changes, but you just have to be willing to show up, really.
Hmm.
Um, but what I really like, and I think the movement is heading that way, is the old method of tradition, what we call traditional therapy,
Hmm.
is changing, and
Hmm.
like there's so many new progressive ways of doing the work, like that is opening up the door to some of these folks that still have that strong resistance towards therapy. Or I hear it all the time. Like people are like, "Yeah, I went to therapy when my parents got divorced and I hated it." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I
that
was when
makes
I was
sense.
15.
Why you never went back to therapy again."
Yeah.
Um, but realizing that it's not all necessarily like what you think it is, and realizing that there's so much more to it than using it just when you're in the pits, is it can be used for incredible personal growth and transformation.
Hmm.
And so I really love the movement that's happening where there's just so many different modalities for people to tap into. And I always try to compare it to people of if we're fixing a picture element on your car, your engine is not functioning, is knowing that we can't just come in with a wrench and expect to fix the problem. Is like we have to use a multitude of tools and be willing and open to exploring different things that
Hmm.
as we're working on. So just like individual therapy and work is important, same with group work like you talk about. Or maybe it's doing, equine therapy or hot and cold therapy. Like there's so many different things, but you have to come at it all at all different ways. And I think that's what's really going to make the big shift for people is the traditional methods aren't the only way of doing the work.
Yep, laying on the couch, listening to the Freudian therapist, ask you a question, then let you talk for an hour.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's other things, EMDR, hypnotherapy,
Hmm.
trauma yoga therapy. I mean, there just you name it, man. That Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, is an awesome
Hmm.
resource for an understanding of like all the different things that you can do and the effect of those things. Um, how many of your clients that you see are first responders in your practice? What would you say? Like what percent?
I'd say probably like 95% are first responders, military, or spouses of a first responder or military member.
And,
So it's,
and do they come to you because you get it?
I think that's a huge piece of it is like knowing, for one, I don't present myself as a traditional counselor. So
Hmm.
I tell people that right off the bat is I don't work in traditional methods and I don't really like traditional counseling. So, but the being able to relate to, I know what it feels like. I know what I can relate to how that feels to you. I know the culture, like at least on some level. I've never been a cop, obviously, but like I can understand it's a very similar type experience.
Hmm.
Um, but also, like the biggest way people come to me is because someone else comes and then they tell their friend. So they start to see a shift in somebody they work with and then get curious and ask like, "Hey, what are you're different?" Or the person who's done the work on themselves starts to recognize, hey, I see you're suffering. Like, how
Hmm.
can I show up for you? And so it's just become a very cool network and a community where that's always been my dream and passion is that people heal and then they go out and help other people heal. So it becomes a movement more or less in that way.
So, all right. So let me ask you a couple of questions then, around that. So how do that's the first responders. But let me ask you a question about the families of first responders, the people that are watching this person, as you said in your words, transforming and changing and not realizing that they're changing, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
start getting peppered with those questions like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I'm fine. I'm fine. But you don't seem fine. And you're like doing all kinds of weird, faulty coping mechanism techniques to deal with your own stuff. But the family members, so how do families of first responders stay healthy? What should they do? Or what can they do when they're watching this person who's changing because of
Yeah.
their job?
I'm so glad that you brought this up because this has been like such a big passion of mine moving forward because the what I see a lot in terms of especially particularly spouses is they feel this almost a secondary need to the self-sacrifice than the I think this is relative too for people going through addiction as well is you feel like your problems or what you're going through is minimalized or you have to minimalize it because the focus needs to be on the other person. They need to get into their sessions, they need to go do this therapy, but you don't realize like you mentioned that secondary shockwave or that secondary trauma that they feel as well is you both people, whether it's two spouses or partners or even the family, is like everybody needs to be doing the work at the same time. Like
Mm,
everybody needs to put their focus and be willing to say like I'm worthy of going to get support that I need to because going I mean just if you broke it down even on the fire side is like out here most of us work 48-96 schedules so we're on shift for 2 days off for four.
hmm.
It's like what does it feel like for the person at home to be a single parent for 48 hours and
Hmm.
you can't tell me that that doesn't like cause some kind of stress within your life or yeah, that's really hard or
Yeah.
being gone on holidays or if you're someone who's helping someone through an addiction like the mental and the emotional requirement for that like you can't tell me that doesn't cause stress within you
Yeah.
is you have to be able to say like, I value myself. I'm important enough. I am going to advocate for myself to go get support as well. And the healing really needs to happen. I really think like side by side. Not I'm not saying necessarily like couples therapy for everybody,
No, but
but
each
like you
person involved
yes.
in the universe that they're in. In
Yes.
the recovery community, we have a lot of sayings, and one of them is individuals don't get sober, groups do. And
Hmm.
you could translate that to families do. So I'm always demanding that the husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, father of the person that's being affected by this coping mechanism of the addiction, that they've got to be recovering from that addiction as well as the addict has to be recovering from the addiction. So they have to go to group. And you know what's really funny is there's so much resistance to that. This
Oh,
happens all the
yes.
time. They're like, but it's not my problem. They're the ones that had the issue. And it's like, yes, but you're running around trying to fix their problem. You
Hmm.
didn't start out your relationship like that. Do you realize you're in
Hmm.
that position? And they can't see it because they're just so blinded by this other person who they love
Yep.
is in this crazy situation. And that's their focus. They just forget about themselves. And
Hmm.
so yeah, that's a good, and with first responders, same thing, except you're seeing the destruction going on from that distance. So um, yeah, you can't heal yourself. And if you're not, if you, just like doctors can't be performing surgery on their own child because your objectivity is gone. And so
Hmm.
you can't do that as a family member. You can't heal yourself. And if you're not trained, you can't heal the other person. And even if you were trained, you can't heal the other person because they're
Right.
related to you. And
Yeah.
like I can't see my wife as a client. I don't understand why a family member thinks that they can be the social worker and the
Hmm.
case manager for their loved one who has a problem. It's insane.
Yeah.
But those are the roles we fall into.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's
I have a funny story on that one. So I had a somebody coming in for a series of treatment and his wife dropped him off and when she dropped him off and came in, I kind of had this feeling of like, uh-oh, like I need to prepare for what's about to come. But she lit both of us up. Like, I don't understand why he needs to be here. I don't understand how like it's that bad. Like it just was like, whoa. And
wow, full
it
denier.
was a full on. And I was like, I just let her like have her space for a second and I said like I would really love it if you you would find an avenue for you to go get some support through this as well too because we just don't we're so focused on the other person we don't often see like what's going on and everybody's a mirror, everybody's a teacher. I say that all the time in relationship work is like your partner is going to trigger something in you that is showing you a growth point. And so, whatever that is, pay attention to it in you. But, like, you've got to go do the work too, because as this person's transforming and changing, like, you've got to figure out how to transform and change and do the work at the same time so that you guys can get to know who each other are in this new season of life, who this person is
Hmm.
now in the here and now, not who they were, in the thick of dealing with work as a first responder or in the thick of their addiction or
Yeah.
all of that is like you really have to like be willing to invest in the process alongside whoever you're supporting. And it should be a non-negotiable, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's loving the person unconditionally, but not performing a rescue yourself. So love without the rescue. And if
Hmm.
you understand that you're in a chaotic situation, it's not just them that's living in the chaotic situation, it's both of you. If it's
Oh.
a partner thing.
Hmm.
Um, wow. So, you good for you that you made the career change, but I'm going to give you a cautionary tale here because you jumped from one type of rescue to another type of rescue. So you have to pay attention
Hmm.
yourself to what's going on and find your recovery and your outlets and everything. And you're nodding your head, so you agree. So just keep an eye on that. All
uh,
right, Ashley.
oh
Um,
yeah.
um, but I love what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I think. anybody who, like I was asking you before the podcast about is your state part of the interstate compact? And that's for those of you who are listening, don't know, in the United States, you can't practice across state lines. So like, and wherever the therapy is happening is where the person who is receiving it lives, not the therapist.
Hmm.
So if you want some coaching from Ashley, you can get coaching.
Yeah,
It's not therapy.
exactly.
Uh, but for people who make the jump from one career and then they go and therapy in particular to help others in that former career that you had, that's awesome because it gives you that perspective. So I wish you all the luck in the world in continuing to help people. But man, if you are a first responder out there and you're looking for help, let me ask you, Ashley, if somebody was listening to this and they are a first responder and they're having these struggles with dealing with their trauma, what would you tell them to do? Like, where did they go? Where did they start?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say time is of the essence. So, like, don't wait. I said there's an urgency to doing the work. Um, and I would say you could start, there's so many different places you could start. If your department has a peer support team, that's a good place to start. Um, However, you can always just go again back to the podcast thing is start looking and listening to other people who are out there doing the work. There's so many different avenues now that you can check out. There's tons of grants and funding out there too that's helping kind of facilitate some of the work that way. I'm always happy. You can always reach out to me and I can help connect you with somebody if you're looking for something specific. But just start asking, like, for one, and you don't have to ask through work. If that's a concern, you can go outside of work.
You know what I tell my listeners? Listen, the COVID virus shutdown for me had one positive, and that is it taught people that they can use the internet, and it forced, particularly in the recovery community, AA, NA, MA, all the A's, to go online, and they
Mm-hmm.
still are out there. So if you are afraid of like getting caught, I tell people then be a meeting tourist. Go to a meeting in England, go to a meeting in New Zealand or Australia, or
Mm-hmm.
I tell them to stay away from Scotland because the accent is like impossible to understand. I've tried that a couple of times, and it's like half the people in there you can't understand. But go to another state, like just go to an online meeting, and
Mm-hmm.
um, you can do that and still get something from it. I like the in-person part. You can do the same thing with therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has to know that you're doing it. You can just do it from the privacy of your home on a phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
the one thing you do that I caution people is that you understand that you're going to probably go through two, three, four, five, six therapists before you find one that you actually connect with. And that's fine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not disparaging my colleagues, but you got to have a connection, right? So
Yep.
find one that works
Absolutely.
for you. So go do the online thing
Mm-hmm.
and find somebody. So you can be an AA, the 12-step tourist and go around and find one. You can find therapists that way. There's really not an excuse for not doing it other than pride and humility, right? But
Yeah.
healing is not about being invincible. It's about being honest. And I need help. I don't want it, but I need it. So be honest, and that will get you the healing. Um, but the other thing is, as a first responder, and this was the number one lifeguard rule that I used to teach when I was teaching people to be a lifeguard is don't become a victim while you're trying to do a rescue. Because
Yep.
now the next person that comes along who's a rescuer, he's gonna have to rescue two people, and he's not rescuing you first because you're the idiot who jumped in when you shouldn't have. He's gonna go for the original victim. But
Mm-hmm.
don't become a victim in the process of rescuing somebody. If you're not
Yep.
equipped or you got some issues, man. Get some help before you start doing it. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah. All right. Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. You don't have to do a career change to get out of it, but hey,
No.
you can do something to handle it anyway. Well, I really like your work. Um, give us the plug. So your podcast is what?
Oh, yes. So thank you. My podcast is Sit Around the Fire. So, like you, a mixture between like having guests come on and share their stories or talk about a lot of their journeys, as well as education side or just talking about different modalities or work that you can do or things to think about and focus on. It's really the concept of like if we were all sitting around the campfire, what would we be talking about? And it's a lot of sharing stories, sharing advice, like words of wisdom, things like that. So that is the podcast. And yes, available on all the platforms. You can check it out and listen to it as well.
And how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out directly to you?
Yes, so you can go to the website right now. We're getting ready to make a big shift in it, but currently you can go now to www.sitaroundthefire.org is a
.org,
place. Org, yes.
not com, org.
Not dot. I don't actually know what the .com one takes you to, so that would be an interesting
I don't think it's
experience.
you.
But
Uh,
no, it's not me. So, yeah.
sitaroundthefire.org, and there's a
Yep.
contact button on there
Yep.
somewhere to reach out to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
contact and then you can we're on the socials as well. It's Instagram sitaroundthefire.co and we're on Facebook and there's links to all that through the website or the podcast so you can get to it
And I've
many
heard
different places.
I heard quite a few of your podcasts. They're good. They're entertaining. I like
Thanks.
listening to them. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you know what, Ashley, I really appreciate coming on and being a guest. And maybe we'll have to sit down by the fire and do this again. But it's got to be at the ocean by the waves because I'm the lifeguard,
Oh,
right? So,
yeah. That would be awesome. Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, well, thank you so much. Yeah, and
yeah.
really impactful work that you're doing as well too. So it's cool to be able to celebrate and support each other. So
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again.
you're welcome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I want to thank Ashley Dillard for coming on. And hey, if you're in need of help, reach out to me, Doc Jacques, your addiction lifeguard. I can be reached at my website, wellspringmindbody.com. If you like the show, please subscribe and like and tell some friends because I always like listeners. And if you're getting something from it, keep listening. But if you need further help, go out, go to rehab, get some help, go see a counselor, go to a meeting, but get some help. I mean, it's crazy that you're trying to save your addiction by ending your life. That's insane. Don't do that. Go get the help. It's out there for you, no matter where you are. But until the next time, when you're tuning into another one of my podcasts, this is Doc Jacques, your addiction lifeguard, saying, see ya.